Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. Welcome to Careers with Sudhir for news from the world of education. Today in this video, we are going to take a deep dive into how the assessment will be done for the R3, which is the third language, which is going to be made compulsory for students of class 9 starting this academic year. So how is the third language assessment going to be done? I see a lot of misinformation around the third language that CBSE has made compulsory. And I'll tell you exactly what, especially after the Supreme Court decided to hear the public interest litigation which was filed by students, parents, and teachers. Now, what is being circulated, unfortunately, by some creators and educators is that the policy has been paused by the court. It says that the policy has been stopped by the court. Let me reiterate, that has not been done. The Chief Justice has said that the public interest litigation, that is PIL, will be heard by the court sometime in the coming week. Only after the first hearing will we know what the court is thinking. In some cases, the court decides that, okay, we don't think the policy is very good, so let's issue a stay order, or it will say the policy can continue, but we will continue to hear the public interest litigation. Both can happen. So let me reiterate, the policy has not been paused by the Supreme Court. There seems to be this misinformation that is going around. Now, how is CBSE going to implement the teaching of the third language, which is known as R3? R1, R2, R3 are the three language subjects. It is going to be introduced, and some of this you already know. Let me do a quick recap. Going to be introduced in class 9 in all CBSE affiliated schools from this academic year 2026-27. Every learner has to learn at least 2 native Indian languages. Okay, that is a rule which has been imposed to be implemented from the 1st of July 2026. That's when the books are expected to be available. Okay, for class 9 students. It is going to be implemented for class 6 in any case. Okay, let that also be very clear. Many students, many parents especially think that it is going to be introduced at the class 9 level. No, class 6 level, it is already being introduced. Class 9 is an addition that was not expected, but that is what has been done as per the May 15th circular. Now, what will happen for class 9 students this year and next year when they go to class 10? Listen to this carefully. Again, lot of misinformation doing the rounds. This year they shall study R3 class 6 books. Class 9 students will study the class 6 books of R3, whichever subject they choose, which will be available around July 1st. Okay, this book will be available around July 1st. So this is a class 9 student who will study the class 6 R3 book, irrespective of whether the student chooses Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, Punjabi, Sindhi, any of the languages, right? Next year, when the present class 9 batch moves to class 10, they will study the class 7 level R3 textbook. Okay, class 10 student will study the class 7 next year. This year, class 10 students will not study R3. Okay, this batch, the present class 10 batch, which will take the board examination in the year 2027, February, March, they will not have R3. It is talking about the present class 9, which will go to class 10 next year. I hope I'm making this clear. Now, they will also study one local literary text, which will be the choice of the school. Every school can decide which local literary text, any book they can choose. I'll tell you with example. This will be one literary text in class 9, another one in class 10. Okay, so in the next 2 years, this year and next year, they will study 2 literary texts depending on whichever language they are choosing as their R3. Now, these could be a short story, it could be a folk tale, it could be a poem, it could be anything, right? Now, for example, in Tamil, it could be the Bhartiyar poems, it could be Premchand's Kahaniya in Hindi, it could be Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore's poetry in Bengali, or any of his writings could be in Bengali, etc., etc. In different languages, it could be any of the poems, short stories, folk tales, etc., which could be there. Now, for the class 9 batch next year, that is the present class 8 batch, which will move to class 9 in March 2027, they will have the advantage because there are 3 books which will be meant for class 9 will be available by December this year. Okay, so by the time they move into class 9 next year, the present class 8 batch, they will already have the R3 books meant for class 9. They will not have to depend on class 6 books. Class 6 is only for the present batch. They will have the class 9 books, and CBSE says it will be ready by December 2026. Okay, now what you need to note is that you cannot take the same language as R2 and R3. For example, if your R1 is English, R2 is Tamil, R3 also cannot be Tamil, right? If R2 is Bengali, R3 has to be some other Indian language. It cannot be Bengali again. So just to clarify what is the correct way. Now, in the last video, I had mentioned that CBSE and NCERT are bringing out class 6 textbooks only for 19 languages, right? I had told you 19 languages in which Hindi, Sanskrit and Urdu were not mentioned in that list. Okay, they were not mentioned. Now, what is the deal with the languages which are missing? CBSE says that for languages without NCERT or CBSE textbooks, state textbooks will be used. So if you are, let's say, in Bengal, you will use the Bengal State Board textbook. If you are in Kerala, you will use the Kerala State Board textbook. If you are in Telangana, you will use the Telangana State Board textbook. That again will depend largely on what your school chooses. So this is a development. This is something which you need to know. CBSE has given a list of combinations for you to get an idea. Now, this is just as an example. This doesn't mean that only these combinations will be used. No, this is just to make you understand. CBSE has given these combinations for you to understand how it could be done. For example, Hindi as your R1. If you take Hindi as your R1, English as your R2, you can take Malayalam as your R3. You could take Gujarati as your R3. You could take Sindhi as your R3. You could take Kannada as your R3. I'm just giving an example. English as R1, Bengali as R2, Hindi as R3. Telugu as R1 if you are living in Telangana or Andhra Pradesh. English as R2, Sanskrit as R3. Marathi as R1. Kannada if you are, let's say, living somewhere in Belgaum, on the Karnataka-Maharashtra border. You can take Marathi as R1, Kannada as R2, English as R3, or English as R1, Marathi as R2, Kannada as R3, because there on the border districts in places like Belagavi, etc., people speak both Kannada and Marathi. Also, please remember, and this is an important development I want to tell you, there are reference question banks which actually release according to whether you are taking English as R1 or R2. For example, I got this particular book. Now, this particular book is released by Oswal Books. Now, this is for your Kaveri, which is your English textbook, right, for class 9. This is the English textbook for class 9, right? Now, what for this? This is a question bank if you are taking this particular English as your R1. So, this will be of a particular standard, a particular level. However, if you are taking English as R2, then you can take the help of this particular question bank, which is written clearly here as R2. So this will be of a level which will be slightly lower than R1. So you need to take a call. So if you are looking to buy some question banks, I'll put the link of this in the description box if any of the class 9 students are listening to this video, if you wish to purchase. So you need to buy accordingly depending on whether you are taking English as your R1 or R2. I hope this is also clear. That was the whole purpose of showing this. Now, let's now move to how you are going to be assessed on R3 subjects. CBSE says that R3 course requires only 2 to 3 periods per week. It does not need more rigorous studying, more than 2 or 3 periods in a week, or let's say in a fortnight, 5 periods is maximum you need for the R3 course. Now, focus of the R3 will be on oral and reading, that is spoken language and being able to read the text instead of grammar or writing the text. So that is going to be the focus. So that is a bit of a relief that you're only focusing on speaking and reading the text. Okay, not writing, because in writing, many students, when they're learning a new language, you are more likely to make lots of spelling mistakes. While there will be no board examination for the R3 subject, whichever subject you choose, the mark sheet will show qualified or not qualified, depending on how you have done. Based on internal assessment by the school, it will not be a board examination next year for you, for the 9th class this year, when you go to 10th class. However, the school will be internally assessing you, and they will decide whether to give you a qualified or a not qualified. That is again depending on your performance, on what your school decides to do, right? Now, if the mark sheet, and listen to this carefully, parents as well, if the mark sheet says not qualified for the R3 subject, student will have to go to remedial classes. So there is no escape from that. You need to be able to have oral and reading ability as far as the R3 subject is concerned. Okay. Now, only if the student completes R3 successfully, he or she will get the certificate from CBSE. So this is again, that's why I'm doing this video separately on how the assessment is going to be done, so that you have complete clarity as far as the R3 course is concerned. Now, sample question paper for internal assessment of R3 for class 9 will be provided in some time over the next few months by CBSE, so that you get an idea about what kind of question paper you are likely to get as far as your R3 subject is concerned, irrespective of which language you take. For each language, I'm presuming they will give some kind of a sample question paper. Okay, I hope till here it is all clear. Now, what happens if your child has been learning French or German or Spanish so far? Because there are many parents who have been writing on my Instagram, they have been writing email to me, YouTube comments on the fact that my child has been learning French, German, Spanish all these years. Now what happens? Now that indeed is a problem. I completely agree with you. That is a problem, because he or she will now have to drop it as only one foreign language will be permitted, and English is counted as a non-native, or let's say a foreign language, right? So if English is used, is your R1 or R2, or maybe R3, then you cannot take German or Spanish or French unless he or she wants to drop English, which I would assume no family in India would want to, because English is pretty much our mode of communication. However, I wish to, and please don't take offense, see, it is precisely for this reason that the PIL has been filed in the Supreme Court, and we will see what the court has to say about it. But I have a request to make to parents, okay? Because when you say a particular thing, which I'm going to show out here, you are only hurting your child's chances, because it won't be taken very well. And I'm saying this as your well-wisher, as a parent myself, because if many parents, and let's read this message, many parents are saying that my son or my daughter has been studying German or French or Spanish or any other language for the last 2 years. Now he will have to give it up. And there comes a problem. That too for an Indian language. Don't say that. Don't ever say that, because no person in authority, no government, and in any case, it sounds very bad. Why would you want to denigrate an Indian language? We should be so proud of all the Indian languages, because we are a land where so many different languages are spoken. Every few kilometers, a different kind of a dialect you get to hear. If you ever travel through Kerala, which is my home state, when you go from Malappuram, where a particular kind of Malayalam would be spoken, you come to Palakkad. The Malayalam will be a bit mixed with Tamil, because it's bordering Tamil Nadu. Then you move to Thrissur, where every syllable and the language is a little elongated. The Malayalam spoken is very different. You move into Kottayam, different. You move to Thiruvananthapuram, different. So the way Malayalam, the same language is spoken, changes. So please never say that too for an Indian language he has to drop German or French. I don't think it is in good taste. Nobody will like it. So kindly avoid this kind of an attitude where you are seen. You may not intend to, but it comes across that you are looking down upon Indian languages. Please don't do that, is my humble request. Every language deserves complete respect. So if he or she wants to learn German and French, he or she can do so even without a school syllabus. If the child is passionate, why do you need a school syllabus? Go to a private tutor, learn French and German. I'm sure that will be wonderful, because that will help the child in the future. Most definitely, the more languages you know, it's always better. It helps in communication. I'm telling you, as someone who interacts a lot with a lot of people, when you speak to someone in their native language, the communication, the connect is that much better. It always helps. It's a big advantage. So for reliable, accurate, trustworthy perspective on news and career counseling, this is the channel you need to check out. So share the video, subscribe to Careers with Sudhir YouTube channel. Thank you very much. I hope this was useful in giving you a complete sense of what all will the R3 course in your class 9 syllabus entail. I'll keep you abreast with what happens in the Supreme Court, give you a perspective, analyze it for you so that you get a well-informed opinion. You can form a well-informed opinion on what is really happening as far as the third language is concerned for students of class 9. Tata, bye-bye. Thank you very much. Namaskar.